Listen, children, hear the music? Hear its bright and cheerful chiming down the street? Hear it playing that pretty little tune as it sings softly through the green trees, through the blue sky overhead, as it sings through the thick, still, sultry summer heat? It's Mr. Ice Cold coming in his truck. Mr. Ice Cold and his nice ice cream. Fat, round, cool balls of it plopped into cones, thick, juicy slabs of it covered in frozen chocolate frosting stocked on sticks, soft, pink, chilly twirls of it oozed into cups. The music's coming closer through the heat, and excitement starts stirring where all was lazy and drowsy just a few blinky, sweaty blinks before. Bob Martin's no longer lying flat on the grass, staring up at a long, slow-moving summer cloud without seeing it at all. He scrambled to his feet and is running over the thick summer grass to ask his mother, nodding on the porch over a limp magazine about to slip from her fingers, if he can have enough money to buy a frozen lime frog. And Susie Brenner's left off dreamily trying to tie her doll's bonnet over her cat's head, much to the cat's relief, and is desperately digging in her plastic polka-dot purse to see if there's enough change in there to buy her a cup of banana ice cream with chocolate sprinkles. Oh, she can taste the sweetness of it. Oh, her throat can feel its coolness going down. And you, well, you've forgotten all about blowing through a leaf to see if you can make it squeak the way you saw Arnold Carter's older brother do it. Now you're clawing feverishly with your small hands in both pockets, feeling your way past your sandy shell you found yesterday on the beach, and that little ball chewed bounceless by your dog, and that funny rock that you came across in the vacant lot, which may, with any luck, be full of uranium and highly radioactive. And so far you've come up to 2 pennies and a quarter, and you think you just touched a nickel. Meanwhile, Mr. Ice Cold's truck is rolling ever closer, and Martin Walpole, always a show-off, wipes his brow, points, and calls out proudly, "I see it! There it is!" And sure enough, there it is, rolling slowly around the corner of Main and Lincoln, and you can see the shiny, fat fullness of its white roof, gleaming in the bright sun through the thick, juicy green foliage of the trees which have, in the peak of their summer swelling, achieved a tropical density and richness more appropriate to some Amazonian than to Midwestern lakeside. And you push aside one last, forgotten tangle of knotted string in your pocket, and your heart swells for joy because you've come across another quarter, and that means you've got enough for an orange icicle on a stick, which will freeze your fillings, chill your gut, and stain your tongue that gorgeous, glowing copper color which never fails to terrify your sister. Now, Mr. Ice Cold's truck has swept into full view, and it sounds out loud and clear and springingly enough, even in the steaming, muggy air, to startle a sparrow and make it swerve in its flight. Rusty Taylor's dog barks for his signal, and all of you come running quick as you can from every direction, coins clutched in your sweaty fingers and squeezed tightly as possible in your damp, small palms. And every one of you is licking your lips and staring at the bright blue lettering painted in frozen ice cubes spelling out Mr. Ice Cold over the truck's side, in front and back, and Mr. Ice Cold himself gives a sweeping wave of his big, pale hand to everyone from behind his wheel, and brings his vehicle and all its wonders it contains to a slow, majestic halt, the skill and style of a Commodore docking in an ocean liner. "A strawberry rocket!" cries fat Harold Smith, who's got there way ahead of everyone as usual, and Mr. Ice Cold flips open one of the 6 small doors set on the left side of his truck with a click, and plops out Harold's rocket and gives it to him and takes his money. And before you know it, it has smoothly glided to the right top of the 4 doors at the truck's back and opened it. Click! And Mandy Carter's holding her frozen maple tree and licking it and handing her money over all at the same time. And now Mr. Ice Cold is opening one of the 6 doors on the right side of the truck. Click! And Eddie Morse has bitten the top off of his bright red cinnamon crunchy munch and is completely happy. Then your heart's desire is plucked from a neat click from the top middle drawer on the truck's right side, which has always been its place for as long as you can remember. And you've put your money into Mr. Ice Cold's large, pale, almost cool palm. As you step back to lick your orange icicle to feel its coolness trickle down your throat once again, you find yourself admiring the sheer athletic smoothness of Mr. Ice Cold's movements as he glides and dips, spins and turns, bows and rises, going from one small door, click, to another, click, and with never a stumble, never a pause, his huge body leaving a coolness in the wake of his passing, and you wish you had moved that smoothly when you ran back over the gravel of the playground with your hands stretched up, hoping for a catch, but you know you don't. Everything's so familiar and comforting. The slow quieting of the other children getting what they want, your tongue growing ever more chill as you reduce yet another orange icicle, lick by lick, down its flat stick, and heavy, hot summer air pressing down on top of it all. But this time, it's just a little different than it ever was before, because, without meaning to, without having the slightest intention of doing it, you've noticed something you've never noticed before. Mr. Ice Cold never opens the bottom right door in the back of his truck. He opens all the rest of them, absolutely every one, and you see him doing it as new children arrive and call out what they want. Click, click, click. He opens them one after another, producing frozen banana bars and cherry swirls and all the other special favorites, each one of them from its peculiar door. But his big, cool hand always glides past that one door set into the truck's back, the one on the bottom row, the one to the far right, and you realize now, with a funny little thrill, that you have never, not in all the years since your big brother Fred took you by the hand and gave you Mr. Ice Cold's money for your orange icicle because you were so small you couldn't even count. But you never, ever seen that door open. Now you've licked the whole orange icicle away, and your tongue's moving over and over the rough wood of the stick without feeling it at all. You can't stop staring at that door, and you know, deep in the pit of your stomach, that you have to open it. You watch Mr. Ice Cold carefully now, counting out to yourself how long it takes him to move from the door's farthest forward back to the rear of the truck, and because your mind is racing very, very quickly, you soon see that 2 orders in a row will keep him up front just long enough for you to open the door which is never opened. The door which you are now standing close enough to touch. Just time to take a quick pick and close it shut before he knows. Then Betty Dean calls out for a snow maiden right on top of Mike Howard's asking for a pecan pot, and you know that those are both far up in the front of the right side of the truck. Mr. Ice Cold glides by you close enough for the cool breeze coming from his passing to raise little goosebumps on your arms. Without pausing, without giving yourself a chance for any more thought, you reach out. Click. Your heart freezes hard as anything inside the truck. There, inside the square opening, cold and bleached and glistening, are 2 tidy stacks of small hands. Small as yours, their fingertips reaching out towards you in the sunlight. Their thin, dead young arms reaching out behind them, back into the darkness, poking over the top of the 2 hands, growing out of something round and shiny, and far back and horribly still are two stiff golden braids of hair with pretty frozen bows tied to their ends. But you have stared too long at the horror, and the door is closed, and almost entirely covered by Mr. Ice Cold's hand, which now seems enormous, and he's bent down over you with his huge, smiling face so near to yours you can feel the coolness of it in the summer heat. "Not that door," he says, very softly, in his small, neat, even teeth shining like chips from an iceberg, and because of his coolness now you know that even his breath is icy cold. "Those in there are not for you. Those in there are for me." Then he's standing up again, moving smoothly from door to door, and none of the other children saw inside. None of them will really believe you when you tell them. Though their eyes will go wide and they'll love the story, not a one of them saw the promise for you in Mr. Ice Cold's eyes. But you did, didn't you? And some night after the end of summer, when it's cool and you don't want it any cooler, you'll be lying in your bed all alone, and you'll hear Mr. Ice Cold's pretty little song coming closer and closer through the night, through the dead, withered autumn leaves. Then later on, you just may hear the first click, but you'll never hear the second click. None of them do.